Curlers, Church, and Whales. Making Sense of Life Through the Eyes of Cancer by Jana West. Narrated by the author. Copyright Jana West 2025. Dedication. With unending devotion to my first friend and my beloved mother, Marilyn Marlene Jackson Brown. Thank you, Mom, for being the curator of my childhood memories. My love for you continues to grow. An Afterthought. After months of considering and reflecting on my 59 years on Earth, looking back, my life resembles the trajectory of a pinball. I bounced, unwittingly catapulted from one impact to the next, often finding myself stunned or bewildered when my hopes crashed headlong into reality. As a young person, I instinctively blamed those in charge, namely my parents or the authorities, when the harsh realities of my world felt somehow tilted against me. But then I became an adult and the one in charge of my life, and I began to see the outcomes of choice are much more nuanced than I previously understood. It wasn't that my parents didn't care to prepare me, but more than likely, they were having a similar experience. When I received a cancer diagnosis late in 2023, I was 58 years old, and it was as if someone briefly unplugged the pinball game, and I had a moment to recalibrate. A few years prior to my diagnosis, I had discovered a creative arts practice called soul collage. The practice blends creativity, intuition, self-discovery, and personal guidance. I had recently created a card using this practice that I found beautiful and intriguing. I had it sitting on my nightstand and would often look at it wondering if it had a message for me. After my diagnosis, again looking at that card, it dawned on me. It did indeed have a profound message for me, and I carried that card with me the rest of the year, using it as a guidepost, so to speak, to help keep me grounded. I'll try to describe it to you. In the upper left-hand corner of the card is a 10-year-old girl. She's wide-eyed, browned by the sun, with a blank expression looking directly at the camera. To her right is an indigenous wise woman, covered in feathers as if prepared for a spiritual dance. About 2/3 of the way down the image is a freshly harvested bunch of garden carrots, cleaned and bright orange. And then along the bottom is this beautiful sea turtle swimming towards me. I added 4 words. For the little girl in the corner, the word open. For the indigenous wise woman, intuit. For the carrots, rooted. And for the sea turtle, slow. I added the words to the visual and used this collage as a guide. It helped remind me during my cancer experience to remain open, to trust my intuition, to allow my values to determine my choices, and to slow down, as it suggested. It's evident now how impactful this guidance has proven to be. After writing and reflecting on this memoir, I can see how my pinballing has become less common. Although I can still be caught off guard by life, I have put down more roots. I'm becoming less reactive. Amid the inevitable calamities of life, it seems to me a higher consciousness will occasionally offer a metaphorical life raft. It may be a rickety old clump of sticks and boards, but enough to give me time to gather my wits and try again to improve my experience here on earth. Now at 60 years of age, I'm more apt to notice and more able to respond to such an offer. Most recently, the life raft came in the especially undesirable form of disease. Once again, an unanticipated situation knocked the wind out of me and sent me jetting in a direction I would not have chosen. But because I've been learning to remain open, trust my intuition, check in with my values, and slow down, more intentional choices brought about momentum that was not so impulsive or injurious. Maybe, just maybe, this pinball has finally exited the game. Introduction. Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. Brene Brown. My journal entry, November 30, 2023. Walking alone is much more than exercise for me. It's a sacred practice. When I walk, I try to clear my mind, notice the world around me, and then the one inside me. While walking alone, I often call out to the source of life, asking for help, conveying gratitude, expressing awe, releasing sorrow, asking for guidance. Yesterday, as I walked, I decided to give my body a bit of affirmation. I noticed each body part I could think of and did my best to describe their role in this team effort we call life, praising each for the ways they help me live. Starting at the top of my head, I worked my way to my toes. By the end, I had a fresh appreciation for the amazing life form that is my body. Next, I addressed my body as a whole, and I made a request. Please help me to hear you and understand how to better communicate with you. On December 26, just 4 weeks after this journal entry, I received a breast cancer diagnosis. Never before in all my years of life on earth would it be more necessary to tune into my body or to be more intent on sensing my body's needs. In fact, it may be the first time in my life that I believed I had the right to be selfish and to spend as much time as I needed to take care of me. My subsequent search for information about cancer and treatment options eventually led me to look back to the fears of a little girl and how the ways she felt and experienced the world continues to animate my decisions and impacts my health. I extend an invitation to you to follow along as I recount how cancer, once seen only as a source of fear and suffering, became a companion who helped reinvigorate my desire to heal my soul and helped me to see my life with more clarity than ever before. I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of other people's experiences or diagnoses, yet I do think our humanity includes afflictions that are common to us all, and I hope there may be parts of my story you can relate to or would benefit from hearing. The messenger. I would guess that most people don't really think they will be the recipient of a cancer diagnosis. Yet current statistics suggest that more than 40% of Americans will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. After billions of dollars spent on research, not only have we not found a cure, but in 2023, the American Cancer Society reported cancer incidence is on the rise, expecting 2024 to be the first time the new cases of cancer in the U.S. will cross the 2 million mark. That's almost 5,500 diagnoses a day. If cancer hasn't affected you yet, chances are good that it will. When we hear the word cancer, it is often in the same sentence as words that describe a struggle against an enemy. Surely you've heard people talk about the fight against cancer. Due to the pain and loss that often accompanies the disease, we may speak of cancer with aggression, saying things like, "I hate cancer," or consider people with cancer to be victims. But what if cancer isn't our enemy after all? What if cancer is a messenger? If we blame and destroy cancer without making an effort to understand it, I will suggest we may be delaying the inevitable, but missing a critical opportunity. At the age of 58, a cancer diagnosis made the end of my life seem suddenly and uncomfortably close by. The news was accompanied by a pervasive sense that most of my life had gone by without my full attention, and I was compelled to take a closer look. I needed to at least try to understand how I landed here. The effort to heal from cancer also rekindled my desire to heal my soul, and I have come to the conclusion that the two are intertwined. Since that fateful phone call from my physician, details about my life have come to light I had not previously considered. Elements and particulars I had once thought of as insignificant became important clues to unresolved questions. As a part of my effort to find healing, restore wellness, and prevent a recurrence, communicating with my body has become a daily practice. Plus, I've been learning to do a lot less talking and more listening. Listening to my body includes practices such as sitting quietly in the morning and simply noticing my body. This may seem a minor variation of what we call thinking, but I assure you, in practice, it is a stark contrast. Anyone who has attempted this type of practice knows the mind is not a fan of silent stillness, and to ask it to withhold judgment or categorization long enough to just notice, that is a major shift. From my experience spending time with this intention, often before I even realize what has happened, random concerns or ideas can suddenly capture my attention. It may take several minutes before I realize I'm no longer present in this moment, but instead have followed my mind down the dark corridors of the past, where some regret waits to rehash mistakes. Sometimes my mind will transport me into an imagined future, where a problem requires fixing or a plan must be devised. I've been taught, as soon as I become aware I have left the present moment to follow the reflexes of my overactive mind, to simply return my attention to my breath. Recently, during my morning stillness practice, and after many such wanderings and returns, I decided to address my mind directly. With compassion, I whispered something like this: "Good morning, my beautiful brain. I see you. You are skilled at protecting us. Thank you for working so very hard to keep us safe. I believe you deserve a short rest. Look around us. Notice that we are safe. All of our needs are currently met. There is no immediate need for concern, no urgent tasks awaiting your attention. So I invite you to take a few moments off. Come and rest with us, just for a few moments before you return to your labor of love. I hope you will join us. Again, thank you. I love you." My lifelong habits of following my mind wherever she wishes to lead me have not been easy to change. Yet with consistent effort, I have become more aware of the messages my body has to offer when I can quiet my mind, slow down, and notice. With the awareness comes attentive concern. followed by the ability to value and appreciate. On occasion, I might become aware of my need to tend and care for my body. The practice has opened pathways to somatic information and self-care ideas I never considered before. Imagine, if you will, you have a partner in business or some other effort like a sport or creative endeavor. How healthy and productive would your relationship truly be if you rarely spent time listening to them or noticing their needs or addressing their concerns? This attention to my inner world has helped me to become more familiar with the internal dialogue in my mind. The compassionate interaction I just described is a fairly new development. My self-talk in the past sounded nothing like this. More often, the voice inside my head was disapproving, used to scold and berate me for any shortcomings. Those shortcomings were usually related to my need to measure up to unrealistic expectations for my human condition. Often the scolding would be due to my perceived failure to gain someone's approval. For a good portion of my life, I needed to get along and to be loved so desperately that I was willing to betray my body if necessary, as I tried to be who I believed others wanted me to be. Over time, this bending and bowing to get along became habitual, even reflexive. Eventually, I would have trouble knowing where the facade ended and my own values and desires began. In retrospect, I can see that by my 30s, the effects of this way of navigating life caused inner turmoil that was seriously eroding my well-being. Evidence of the struggle began to seep out through the cracks of my facade, presenting as anxiety, substance abuse, an eating disorder, depression. Largely unaware and very leery of people who wanted to help, I had a long struggle ahead of me. Looking back, I feel compassion for my younger self. I was largely ignorant of the world, and I was subsisting on crumbs of information, filtered first by a religious subculture within which I spent most of my time. Thankfully, my body was sending signals that were hard to ignore, and I began seeking the help of mental health professionals. After being walled off by decades of religious and social indoctrination, silenced over and over again by messages of fear and shame, I began to realize I needed to sort out what I truly valued from what I was told to value. This effort to bring my autonomy back online has required considerable and ongoing attention. I needed to reckon with the reality that some of the people I trusted were not worthy of my allegiance, which produced a considerable amount of grief and anger. A process of discovery began that included trying new or previously taboo things to see what might help enliven me, and discarding core beliefs that could not stand the litmus test of my innate senses and core values. For a season, the results of this process produced personal changes that were a shock to people with whom I had established relationships. This all began about 20 years ago, and I've made many mistakes in my attempts to recalibrate my life's course. Change has been slow and fraught with trial and error. I've encountered roadblocks I did not always know how to overcome. I've made some intensely painful mistakes with important relationships. I experienced unpredictable pockets of rage, severe fatigue, along with recurring bouts with depression and substance abuse. And I had to face the fact that one specific habit was seriously preventing progress, a reflexive tendency to check out when I felt out of my depth or weary from struggle. I needed ongoing support and regular practices to muster the courage to whisper my truth, let alone speak it with confidence. Along the way, and all too often, I encountered professionals who were less than professional, experts who did not know how to help me. Advice was followed that ended up making matters worse. This reality could ignite a core wound of neglect, something I found so painful that even a hint of it could shut down forward movement and send me back into hiding for weeks, months, or even years. The one step forward, two steps back effort seemed to drag on ad infinitum. I began to seriously doubt that I could ever attain the kind of healing that could restore my potential, and my dedication to the process waxed and waned. Still, gradual progress was made. Eventually, along with leaving my religious affiliation, I walked away from a career in graphic design. I had chosen this focus for college not because I wanted to be a designer, but because art was one of the few subjects in school I had enjoyed. At my first graphic design job, working for a small private college, my boss showed me a brand new Apple Macintosh Plus computer and told me, "Figure out how to use this thing." I spent the rest of my 30-year career sitting in front of a computer screen. Later, I found better pay in marketing and advertising, which is highly competitive, with pressure-inducing timelines and often demanding long hours. I enjoyed making art, but this felt more like mechanical drudgery to me. Very few aspects of my job were creative, and the highly stressful environment began to wear me down. I became desperate for other options, but I felt stuck. We needed two incomes to make ends meet. Eventually, my husband Tim found a promising job that he enjoyed. His new job included good benefits and earning potential, but I was still very unhappy in my work. I was in my 40s when I told him one day how I hated my job and was dreading Monday. His response? "So quit and get more bookings for the band." I met Tim in the 80s when I auditioned for a band. We continued to play music together, writing and recording, performing at church and with various groups. At this time, we generated some income from a local in-demand cover band. So I quit my graphics job, and eventually I was able to make enough income with music to get by. Our budget was tight, but I was finally free from the grueling stress of my chosen profession. Playing music for a living has always been my dream job. I'm a songwriter and have long enjoyed performing. Now I was playing covers in bars, someplace that was previously forbidden for me due to religious rules. In the bars, I was meeting people from all walks of life and enjoying the freedom to express the emotion popular rock music conveys. The bar audience was appreciative, responsive, singing along and dancing to the music. Performing in the band with all of the physicality of it and the opportunity to emote for a crowd is exhilarating. By my 50s, I was experiencing what felt like a good life. Although I still encountered occasional setbacks, I was managing. I had nearly surrendered to my conclusion that I had done all I could to address my mental health, and that this is as good as it gets. It was a cancer diagnosis that provided the impetus to re-up my quest for healing. Cancer caused me to look in places I did not previously know existed. Cancer granted me access to new resources. Because of cancer, I am discovering ways to improve my well-being for what remains of my lifespan. The rest of this book includes a glimpse of my journey, details about what happened next when cancer caused me to ask, is this really as good as it gets, or am I still missing something important? Determining what parts of my story need my attention and then what parts merit writing down has been difficult. So I've been checking in with my body, and I'm following her lead. Take a deep breath and begin.
Hello, hello, hello. Please don't hang up the phone. I am a messenger within important news from home. This is not our first attempt to reach you. Others have been sent, but for reasons of your own.
The words did not sink in, and for reasons of your own, you did not listen. I have been enlisted in one last attempt to get the message through. That's why I've been sent. If you will not heed, things could get intense. Please take my advice, for if my mission fails, you cannot arrive. And if my mission fails, you can lose your life. May I introduce myself? The name is Pain. Though my methods seem intense, to ignore me is insane. Look into my eyes, it would be like a mirror. A face you'll recognize, can't you see? Can you see?
I will not outstay my purpose. Go around me and find regret and remorse.
So listen well and do adjust your course. So listen well and you'll look back on this day. You'll realize in the end, the one that you call pain is a friend. A friend. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Don't hang up the phone.